Well, how time in the desert can prepare you for Corona. 30 days of self-isolation through Australia's 10 deserts. On my quest, his quest, I should say, to set the new Guinness World Record. Joining us here in the studio to tell us more is Benji Brundin from Daringaventure. How are you doing?
Good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, really, really well. You have come to us because we were talking a little earlier about your incredible experience. You've written a book about it, venturing through the desert.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience. I planned an expedition last year. It took 30 days to complete, and when I started planning, I realised no one had ever done it before.
Wow.
So it was,
Which desert are we talking about?
there's 10 defined deserts in Australia.
Yep.
And no one had crossed all 10 solo.
And you've crossed all 10?
Yeah, so I planned the expedition and did all the prep and sent all my resupply out to different Aboriginal communities. And
wow.
yeah, 30
so
days.
The first question I have to ask is why? What was the reason for this?
Well, look, in 2015, my world came crumbling down around me, and I lost everything. So I felt like that's similar to what a lot of people are experiencing right now.
Yeah.
So working through my own metaphorical Corona back then, and then I just felt like I had something to give the world, and I wanted to do something special and raise money and awareness for mental health.
We were just talking to Karen Gately about courage, and it sounds like you were able to very much find your courage and to try and get rid of that anxiety. Did you not find that trekking through the desert meant you had more time to think?
Look, it certainly gave me a lot more time to think. More thought about not falling off my motorbike more than anything. But
so that's how you got across on your motorbike.
Yeah,
I was
on a
imagining
motorbike,
you're walking like Samson in the desert.
Yeah, no, I averaged about 200 kilometres a day across the sand dunes.
Okay, yep.
So yeah, there was a lot of time to reflect and a lot of time to think and work out what works and what doesn't. And I felt that what I learned along the way really helped me prepare for Corona now.
It's probably a lot better to be motorbiking, and just what you said there about 200 k's a day going over the sand dunes. I know exactly what it's like to go over sand dunes, and it uses your mental ability to try and come up with ways to choose your path and to choose your direction. So you don't actually have too much time to contemplate or worry about the many other things that might be going on in your life, because you're literally, every move you make can determine your direction.
Absolutely, yeah. So it was just really just focusing on all the things I could control. So there's a lot of variables, and there's no point in me trying to worry about what could possibly go wrong and getting lost down that way. Just really had to focus on all the things I could control.
Now that's a perfect metaphor for what we're going through right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But being in quarantine is a little bit different to trekking across a desert, I would imagine. What translatable lessons have you learned?
What translatable lessons? So really focusing again on all those things you can control, but also really making sure you're talking to people. So although I was all by myself out there, I still had a sat phone with me, focusing on things like building a team around you and celebrating small victories, really, to keep your mind.
What was your team like? When you talk about going through the desert on a motorbike, it sounds very isolating. So what sort of team could you have?
Although I was all by myself in the actual sand dunes, there was a team back home who was watching my every move on a spot tracker and checking my progress, and I check in with them every night on a sat phone and things like that. So, and they would really just, because I told them where I was going to go and what I was going to do, they really kept me accountable. So
you get to the other side of this. What's the I guess the excitement level when you finally finished? What was the sense of achievement like?
Look, it was a pretty surreal, to be honest. I just never thought in a million years that I'd ever do something like this in my lifetime. So yeah, it just really made me realise that anything's possible if you put your mind to it. If you really set some goals and announce your intention to the world that this is what you want to do, and you put all that fear aside, and yeah, you can actually achieve anything you put your mind to.
And talk to us about some of the challenges you faced, because sounds quite easy, doesn't it, just to roll off motorbike to cross all these deserts, but actually talk to us about some of the experiences that you went through.
Yeah, so there was a situation when I'd been about 14 days in the desert by then. And I was in the middle of the Gibson Desert, and I woke up one morning. I'd been freezing cold all night. There was just ice all over my tent. I'd lost a lot of weight. The day before I'd had a bad stack, and I was pretty battered and bruised. My hands were all blistered, and I had nothing left in me.
Wow.
And I was all by myself, and I was probably 1,000 kilometres from the closest medical support.
Yikes.
in that moment, I just decided that there was a choice. How it all played out was how I perceived my reality. So it was up to me to win or lose, or live or die. And I could focus on all the negatives, that my hands were blistered, my feet were sore, my body was bruised, or I could focus on the positives, that I was just over halfway, that I did have food, my bike was still going, and I could still keep moving forward. So I really just had to own my universe.
Did you think about turning back at any time?
I did. I really, at that point, because every kilometre forward from there was another further kilometre away from home.
Medical help.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I didn't know what was in front of me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to expect. And if it was anything like I'd just come through, I thought there's just 4,000 more kilometres of pain and suffering.
How cold was it overnight when you talk about your tent?
Oh, it was freezing. Yeah, certainly in the southern deserts. It was just clear. If I'd go to sleep at night and there was clear skies, I just knew I was in for a rough night.
So you obviously you've prepared for this, but have you been able to mentally prepare for the challenges that you face, do you think?
Yeah, so I actually spent 2 years travelling around the country, and the deserts was just the final expedition of many. Prior to that, I spent a year travelling, and I rode my motorbike to the compass points of the country, and like through Kakadu, some of the wildest, most isolated parts of the country.
Where was your favourite place that you saw?
Kakadu.
Kakadu.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've always
Just
wanted to get
wild.
up there. Now, did you get eaten by a crocodile or a snake?
I almost got eaten by both.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot of wildlife up there.
The whole of Australia wants to kill you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's absolutely incredible. So being in Kakadu, again, out on a motorbike all by myself, you're face to face, shoulder to shoulder with the wild animals.
Unbelievable.
So they're pretty crazy times.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, you think about the mental side of what you were going through to try and keep that stamina up,
Yeah.
to keep pushing, to keep going forward, a bit like running a marathon,
Yeah.
where it just feels like it's never going to end. And you must ask yourself at one stage, why am I doing this? At least not once. But then there's the other side, which are the external factors, which you can't control. You don't know what's around the corner or what's about to creep into your tent.
Yeah, and look, every time I'd go out and into these wild expeditions, and I'd overcome some sort of challenge. It just, I'd face that fear and I'd overcome that fear, and it would just encourage me to go out and push further and go further and go further. And so, my first trip would have been a 20-kilometre bike ride, and that it kept getting further and further and further over 2 years, and the desert was nearly 7,000 kilometres in the end. So every time you push the boundaries, you expand your realm of possibility.
So, final question, what would you tell yourself if you were to do it again, and what's next?
What would I tell myself? Yeah, just absolutely go for it. Do all the planning and just believe in yourself. Have absolute belief in yourself. And what's next? Well, I've written the book now, so again, that was the same thing. I didn't think I'd ever write a book.
Yeah, talk to us about your book.
Well, so the book just talks about the whole journey, the whole expedition, and everything in the lead up.
Hold it up for us, I want to see it. So, Hunting Fear, it's called.
Hunting Fear.
And where do we get that?
You can buy it online. It's at www.daring2venture.com.au. So I'm selling those online now. There's an ebook, and I'm just recording the audio book as well this week.
Yep.
And the hard copy will also I'll be able to send that out.
Yep.
And I never thought in a million years I'd be writing a book, but after the deserts and everything else that happened in the last few years, I thought, well, it's just another challenge.
And it's so true, isn't it? Many of us sit in our day-to-day lives thinking, why would you ever write a book? Well, you got to get out, you got to trek across the desert, and then you might have some stories that you can't help but then write a book.
So you just got to put yourself out there, and the book is just another example of that. So it's been an awesome journey, and if I could leave a message, just say believe in yourself and anything's possible.
Good on you, mate. Benji, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right. Well,